anyone heard of the tragic destiny of OTMA? Olga, Tatiana, Maria and Anastasia, the 4 sisters of the daughters of the lost Russian Tzar Nicholas II. Well, there are thousands of documentaries filmed about them. They lived 100 plus something years ago and all died in an outrageous massacre ordered by Bolshevik authorities in 1980, despite the romanticized version of the Disney movie. All 4 girls were more than in a suitable age for the marriage. The eldest Olga was 22 and the youngest Anastasia had just turned 17. Back in the day it was the perfect age for the princesses to tie the knot with some Prince Charming. However, none of them got married. There were numerous reasons for that, but the major factor was the reluctance of their parents, the emperor father in particular, who objected to their early marriages, and if only he knew the potential survival in the bloody revolution. Well, turns out this was quite a thing in the Romanov family. In this series on my channel, we talk about the unknown secrets and mysteries of the Russian imperial house. We started today's story from the lost Romanovs, but actually, the first ever Romanov sisters didn't enjoy a particularly happy life either. Let's now dive back 400 years in time and find ourselves in Moscow Tsardom with the first Romanov Tsar on his throne. Michael I, or Michael Fedorovich of Russia, didn't know he was going to be the ruler of the country when he was a teenager. Briefly, he was chosen to become one among the other candidates of the noble boyar families after the long 15 years of the time of troubles, or smuta, when Russia was suffocating from the anarchy of the dark years in between the 2 ruling dynasties. He had some serious trouble finding a proper bride. His first wife died shortly after marriage. The level of medical care was not that impressive back in the day. And at the end of the day, he was proposed with the choice of new suitable brides-to-be from the most prominent families in the state. Yet, to everyone's surprise, he chose one of their ladies' maids. The court was pissed off, obviously, yet since the whole bagatelle lasted for so long, they agreed on the marriage, which brought 4 children for the crown. Actually, there were 10 kids, but only 4 survived till the adult age. Alexei was the only boy and an heir to the throne, and apart from him there were 3 sisters, the elder Irina, Anna and Tatiana. The girls were living in Tzarevna, the so-called tower in old Russian mansions where women were kept in seclusion. They weren't allowed in the palace or what was there instead of it, and only their father could pay them a visit when he wanted to see his daughters. So the young Tzarevnas were living together with their nurses and nannies, and the noble ladies' friends from the boyar families who came to them to play. The sisters received some standard education at the epoch, so to say they were taught to read and to write and to needlework. In summer they were used to make pilgrimages to convents with their parents or travel to the countryside where the Tsar would engage in his favorite pastime, falconry and bear hunting. Imagine, it means there were quite a few bears around Moscow back in the day. Yes, it should sound amazing, since today the city is a 15 million megapolis and you could spot a bear only in the zoo, I guess. When the elder Irina turned 13, her parents started to search for the proper suitor among the foreign princes. Choice turned next to the 20-year-old Waldemar Christian, Count of Schleswig-Holstein, one of the sons of the Danish king Christian IV. The young prince gave his preliminary agreement and came to Moscow to see his prospective bride. Back in the day, nobody was allowed to see a Tzarevna before she got married, except for her close entourage. So first you have to marry, and only then you are going to see a wife for life. Kinda rough, right? To compensate for that, Waldemar received generous gifts and returned to Moscow in a year and a half with a huge crowd of 300 of his courtiers for the wedding. It is known that he received a particularly warm welcome from the Tsar, who even stood up to greet him by hand. That was almost unheard of for a Russian Tsar at the epoch. Waldemar was pampered as never before and settled in the Kremlin palace waiting for the wedding ceremony. Little did he know that he wasn't yet announced the key, tricky condition. He would be given the Russian Tzarevna as a wife if only he would convert to the Orthodox Church. Wait a minute, what? Wasn't the bride supposed to change her beliefs when she married into another royal family? At least I thought that was a rule of thumb in European monarchies. Well, somehow that wasn't the case for Moscow Tsardom in the early 17th century. Waldemar was shocked with such a condition, to say the least. As compensation, the Tsar offered him two ancient Russian cities, Suzdal and Yaroslavl, a lifetime rent income, as well as more than generous immediate monetary gifts. Now we're talking, right? I guess there was nothing that Waldemar could name as a price for changing his faith, so he stood firm on his decision to cancel the betrothal and return to his native Denmark. Not so fast, grasshopper. You know what did the Tsar? He just simply closed the guy in the chambers at the Kremlin, making him a sort of prisoner until he changed his mind. Now, imagine yourself in the place of poor Waldemar. What would you do? Like, that mad Russian Tsar wasn't joking. He wouldn't let him go. Either he marries a Tzarevna and becomes an Orthodox, or he never sees the light of the day again. Well, I'm exaggerating a bit here. Although the Danish Prince was indeed captured in a cage, it was still a golden cage. Everyone treated him as a royal prince, a future husband of the Tsar's eldest daughter. So, what do you think he did? Nope, he didn't give up. He made an attempt to flee Moscow undercover. Alas, it failed. He was caught at the gates of the city and brought back to his palatial cell. Months passed and, okay, he agreed that his future children would become Orthodox and he would try to obey all the due religious fasting days, but would still keep his faith. This rather sane proposal didn't work either. Long 18 months, a year and a half have passed until he finally got released from his imprisonment and could return to his native Denmark. This happened only because the Tsar, Michael I, had died. And what about Irina? What did she do for all these long months? You would be surprised perhaps, but she never got to see her potential groom, even out of the corner of her eye. You already guessed that her father was a strict, let's put it mildly, so she just had to keep living in her harem, meekly waiting for something to happen in her life for the good. You see, at the epoch, Tsarevnas were not permitted to marry a non-Orthodox, nor a partner below their social status, And since there were no Orthodox kingdoms other than Russia at the time, daughters of the Tsar were expected never to marry, unless they found an opportunist foreign prince eager to change his faith for a hefty sum. It's hard to suppose he would do that because of love at first sight, since the prince wouldn't be allowed to see the Tsarevna. Alas, neither Irina nor her two younger sisters, Anna and Tatiana, did ever get married. Irina lived her whole life in seclusion and died at the age of 52. Anna ended up in monastery. She took the vows of schema, so to say. She became ascetic, changed her name to Anfisa, and dedicated all herself to God. All that happened right before she died, soon after she turned 60. And Tatiana kept close relations with the Romanovs, influencing many political decisions late in her life when she became the elder member of the Tzar family and died peacefully at the age of 71. I hope you enjoyed learning this totally unknown story of the first Romanov sisters and the poor Danish prince who still didn't betray himself. By the way, he didn't marry either and never had his happily ever after. And 10 years after he left Russia, he was killed in a battle with Poland. Please don't forget to like this video if you did, and I'll be happy if you decide to subscribe to my channel, and see you in my future videos. Bye bye!